The Clown Who Never Performed. Listener submission, submitted anonymously by a former overnight Fairgrounds security worker. Locations, dates, and names have been changed. I don't know if this counts as paranormal or just criminal negligence, but it's something that still sits wrong with me years later. I worked overnight security for traveling fairs for about 3 summers. County fairs, pop-up carnivals, seasonal events, the kind that roll into a town, light the place up for a week, then vanish overnight like they were never there. Most nights were painfully boring. Long shifts, walking the same fence lines, checking ride trailers, making sure nobody was sleeping in fun houses or stripping copper wire off generators. You get used to patterns quickly. What belongs, what doesn't. That's why I noticed the clown. This was late August, still warm at night, but the crowds were thinning out. The fair was set up just outside a small town, farmland on one side, woods on the other. Nothing unusual about the location. We'd been there 2 nights already without incident. The clown wasn't performing. That's what stood out first. Every other performer had a role. Balloon animals, face painting, cheap jokes near the food trucks, one guy doing card tricks for bored parents. This clown wasn't doing any of that. He stood near the edge of the fairgrounds, close to the tree line, not far from the service road. Next to him was a long black trunk. At first glance, it looked like equipment storage. We used trunks like that all the time for cables, lighting gear, tools, heavy metal edges, thick latches, beat up like it had been hauled across states for years. I figured he was crew, maybe off shift. Performers wander around all the time once they're done. I remember thinking it was a little strange that he didn't move much. He wasn't stiff like a statue, but he didn't pace or check his phone or talk to anyone either. He just stood there, hands resting on the trunk like it was a counter. About an hour later, the mood shifted. It started with a mother asking around if anyone had seen her son. Nothing dramatic at first, just that sharp edge of panic you recognize immediately once you've worked security long enough. Radios started chirping, and police cars pulled in faster than usual. They locked the exits, did it efficiently. I'll give them credit for that. No chaos, just containment. We searched everywhere. The kid was found behind one of the storage trailers about an hour later, crying, shaking, no injuries. Just scared enough that he couldn't stop repeating the same thing. I didn't hear this directly, but later one of the guards told me what the kid said. He said a clown told him he had something cool to show him. Said it was behind the trailers. Said he had to be quiet so it wouldn't get ruined. That's when police stopped treating it like a misunderstanding. They started questioning performers. IDs out, contracts checked, radios buzzing nonstop, fair management hovering and arguing quietly with officers about shutting down. I watched the whole thing from the fence line. There was one clown nobody could place. No one remembered hiring him. No contract, no badge, no assigned trailer, not even another performer who recognized him. I pointed him out to one of the officers and said, "That guy's been standing near the trees all night." The officer nodded and walked over with a notebook. I followed a few steps behind, and we didn't even make it halfway before he slowed down, then stopped. The spot was empty. No clown, no trunk, just flattened grass, like something heavy had been sitting there for hours. The officer looked around, then back at me, and asked if I was sure. I was. The fair stayed open that night, and that was the part that bothered me most. The fair stayed open the next night, but it didn't feel the same. Parents were tighter with their kids. You could see it in how they walked, hands locked, heads on swivels. Police cruisers sat near the main gate with engines running, lights off, but ready. Management pretended everything was fine, but nobody really believed it. The clown came back. Same place, same trunk. I clocked in and looked for him immediately. He was there. Same tree line, but pushed further back into the shadows. Like he knew we were watching, and he wanted to make us work to see him. I made a point to watch him closely. He didn't interact with anyone, not even kids who drifted too close out of curiosity. If someone approached, he'd lean down slightly and say something quiet. I never heard what he said, but whatever it was worked. People backed away immediately, no laughing, no questions. At one point, a group of teenagers dared one kid to go talk to him. The kid walked up, listened for maybe 5 seconds, then turned around and walked straight back to his friends without saying a word. His face was pale. When they pressed him about what the clown said, he just shook his head and told them to drop it. I radioed my supervisor again, asked if anyone had confirmed that guy was legit, payroll, contract, anything. He said he was working on it. That answer didn't sit right. Later that night, close to closing time, I was doing a fence walk on the back end of the grounds. The music from the rides was dying down, generators humming, the kind of quiet that makes small sounds stand out. That's when I heard it. A dull thud, then another, not loud, not frantic, slow, controlled. It took me a second to realize what it reminded me of. Knocking, not on wood, on something thick, hollow. It was coming from the direction of the trunk. I walked toward it, every step feeling heavier than it should have. The clown wasn't there this time, just the trunk sitting alone near the trees. Up close, it looked colder than it should have been. Condensation clung to the metal even though the air was warm. I reached out and wrapped my hand around the latch. It was freezing. Before I could pull it, my radio screamed to life. Supervisor calling everyone back immediately. Police wanted another perimeter sweep before final shutdown. I hesitated. My hand was still on the latch. Then I let go. By the time I came back, the trunk was gone. So was the clown. Again. That night, another kid went missing. Not for long. He was found near the food trucks this time, sitting on the curb, crying so hard he was gagging. No injuries, no marks. Just shaking and refusing to look at anyone wearing makeup. One of the EMTs tried to calm him down. The kid just buried his face into his knees and kept saying he didn't want to see inside and come on again. No one pushed him for details. The fair should have shut down then. It didn't. The third night was worse. Crowds were thinner, but still there. Parents argued with each other about whether to leave early. Police presence doubled. More cruisers, more radios. Floodlights pointed toward the woods instead of the rides. Everyone was on edge. That's when a teenage girl disappeared. Not wandered off. Not temporarily lost. Gone. Her friend said she went to the bathroom and never came back. She didn't answer her phone. Her bag was still on the picnic table where they'd left it. One of her shoes was found near the tree line, not far from where the trunk had been sitting the night before. That's when everything finally snapped into place. Floodlights came on full power. Dogs brought in. Officers combed the woods beyond the fairgrounds. State police showed up before midnight. Helicopter overhead for a while, chopping the air so loud you couldn't hear the rides anymore. The clown never showed up that night. The trunk didn't either. By morning, the fair was shut down permanently. When daylight came, every trailer was gone, packed up faster than I'd ever seen. Management claimed it was standard procedure, said they didn't want to cause panic. There was one trailer nobody could identify. No paperwork, no destination, no driver logged, just tire tracks leading away from the edge of the lot toward the highway. The girl was never found. No arrests, no suspects, no public answers. The town stopped talking about it within a few months. That's how these things go. The fair moved on. The rides showed up somewhere else. I didn't last long in that job after that. I finished out the season, then quit. Took a delivery job, night routes, long highways, gas stations that smelled like burnt coffee and disinfectant, places where nothing sticks around long enough to learn your name. About a year later, I was driving through another state. Stopped for gas around 1 a.m. in a town I didn't know. Across the street was an empty lot. Lights, generators, the low hum of machinery warming up, a traveling fair pulling in. I told myself to mind my business, pay and go. But I looked. Near the tree line at the far edge of the lot stood a familiar figure, white face paint, same still posture, and beside him a long black trunk. I didn't get gas. I got back in my truck and drove until the sun came up. I don't know who went missing in that town, and I don't want to know.